For tonight's special theme discussion, we have an extra special treat, and let me go ahead and announce these two gentlemen, and then I'm going to bring them on the line. These are a couple of our apprentices, now Eagles, that have they're very active on these calls. They're always very generous with their expertise. They're very generous with their time. They've done amazing things with their business. They're taking it to the next level right now, and they have graciously agreed to speak about a case study on some apartment turnarounds they've been doing. And of course, let me bring the pictures up here. Then I'm going to bring them on the line. First, I want to introduce Mr. Anil Silkri and his partner, Mr. Dale Steinman. There they are from getting their awards at the Apprentice Awards Dinner. Got their medals hanging around their neck from their two deals are closed. So let me bring these gentlemen on the phone here. Let's get them opened up here because, first of all, I got Neil at the top of the list. Neil, your line should be. Hey, Anil.
Hey,
how
Lance.
are you?
Hey, Dale. How you guys doing?
Hey, we're
great. Hey, Dale.
How are you, Neil?
I'm good.
Hey, guys. I really appreciate you, taking some time to share your story on your apartment turnarounds tonight. This is going to be really neat. You guys have some amazing stuff. So thank you for your generosity.
You are welcome.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. I've got kind of a little bit introductory thing here. Then I've got a few questions prepared. But as always, we are not bound by those questions. These are just some questions to prep us. But before I get into the questions around your case study and your success story, I want to go ahead and share and make sure I got this right. Dale and Neil are the proud owners of 2 apartments. Property number 1 is a 30-unit property that they purchased. Property number 2 is a 44-unit property they purchased, and they both were acquired as value play opportunities. Value play opportunities, I mean there's turnaround associated with it. They went in, bought in cheap with the intention to improve the operations, turn it around, increase the NOI, increase the value, which means increase the cash flow and the equity in the deal. And so tonight, they've been into this process, and they are giving me some updates, of the accomplishments of these 2 properties. This is where I wanted to have them share tonight. And guys, to begin, let me bring this up here first. Let's do this. I want to do kind of a background conversation here, and this is just I got some sample questions. I put them up here. Let me put them to you, and I'll let you guys speak. But if for people that are not familiar with these deals, if you would take a little bit of time when you speak and talk about how you found these properties, what was the condition, the operational condition when you found them, and by the way, what was your prior operations expertise or experience in apartments, and what did you see in these properties? What was the opportunity you saw? I mean, just kind of that background.
Go ahead, Neil. You can go first.
Okay. Let me talk about the 30-unit property because that was our first deal. That was our first olive out of the jar. That is a property based in Columbus, Ohio. And we found the property through our commercial broker in Columbus, of course. We had been talking to him for almost a year, and we've been working with him on a couple of prior deals, which never went through. But this was a deal which actually came to us. It had fallen out of contract. There was another syndicator in Columbus who was trying to put this deal together, and it never closed. So the interesting thing about this deal is the 30-unit property. It was never ever advertised on LoopNet or any of the other commercial real estate sites. It was actually advertised on the residential MLS. So it was pretty much like an off-market deal. And through a commercial broker, because we already had a pretty good relationship with him, as soon as this property fell out of contract, he got this through the listing broker, which was a residential broker, who brought the deal to our commercial broker, who immediately brought it over to us. And as soon as we saw this deal, we kind of jumped on it because we obviously want to get the first olive out of the jar. And so we ran some numbers, seemed like a beautiful deal, and we submitted the LOI. And as soon as we signed the LOI, we actually decided to visit the property because with both Dale and I being out of town, we had to visit the property as soon as we signed the LOI. And we also took Dale's son, who, by the way, we'll talk about him as well. He is one of the reasons why we are so far ahead in terms of a turnaround. He's our asset manager for both of these deals. And he has a construction background, and he has done a fantastic job in terms of doing the asset management responsibilities for both the deals. So the three of us, Dale, myself, and Dale's son, Derek, we went down to Columbus, and we visited each and every unit. By the way, this property was managed by a gentleman who had owned this property for 25 years, and he was managing the property himself. He really had no proper P&Ls. He was kind of managing out of the shoebox. And the property itself externally was not in a very bad shape, but the interiors of the property, the way the tenants were living, it was really, really filthy. The property itself, from the interior, was not taken good care of. We had some very undesirable tenants. We actually had 5 sex offenders in the property. We had some drug dealing going on. Yep, 5 sex offenders in the property. And we had drug dealing going on. So, going into the deal, we knew we would have to evict most of the tenants. So, so eventually we put it under contract because we actually put it under contract for $250,000, which was around less than around $8,000 a door. And we knew that based on the market cap rates and the Columbus market, we knew that around $20,000 a door is something that we would be able to sell it eventually. So that was our value play, to buy it for around $8,000 a door, put some money in, rehab the property, and then eventually either put it back on the market or refinance it and cash out. So once we put it under contract, we eventually closed on the deal, and we put in a property management company, which that was another learning experience. The property management company that we put in, that was referred to us by the commercial broker. But that property management company, and again, with us being pretty new to apartments, we kind of learned a lesson with the property management company because they did not have much experience managing commercial properties. They were only managing residential properties. So they did not do a good job at all in terms of managing this property. Over a course of 6 months, they did help in evicting most of the tenants. And when we bought the property, we had around 28 tenants who, even though most of them were paying, they were not the tenants we want. With all the undesirables, we did not want them in our property. So we ended up pretty much emptying out the property, leaving only 2 or 3 tenants in place. So the property management company did a good job with evictions, but they did a horrible job in terms of filling up the property. So over the course of 6 months, they did not even lease up a single unit. So, so that was our, that was kind of a learning experience for us in terms of choosing a good property management company. So we eventually, after 6 months, we ended up. I'm sorry, Lance. Were you going to ask any questions?
Well, let me pause you right there because I want to make sure. So you're talking about your 30-unit property still, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to put it over here. Let's bring this sheet back up. the 30 unit you went in at $8,000 a door. You estimated when stabilized it's worth $20,000 a door. What was the idea of what your rehab was going to be? Was it mostly a management play? Was it mostly a management turnaround, or did it need a lot of rehab?
It definitely needed rehab from the because the inside of the property was in a pretty bad shape. Each of the units, they were very filthy. So what we ended up doing is, again, with the help of Derek, he managed the whole project. We ended up pulling out the carpets, and we ended up putting in wooden flooring, laminated wooden flooring, two-tone paint. Again, not a whole lot, but we really wanted the units to look much better, to get the level of and the quality of tenants that we wanted. So we kind of ended up spending around $2,000 a unit, which wasn't a whole lot. So that's what we ended up spending, $2,000 a unit to spruce it up.
Okay.
So it was, a combination of a management play and really improving the quality of the unit so that we could get a better quality of tenants.
Okay.
And
all right.
What we also ended up doing is, go ahead, Lance.
Well, before we get any further into that one, can I talk about the 44 unit as well? It's kind of a background.
Sure.
And then I want to kind of let you guys lead into, the process and what you learned through that process.
Sure. Dale, would you like to take that, and I can also chime in?
Yeah, sure. The 44 unit we actually found on LoopNet, and it's located in Cincinnati. It was a short sale, and we bought it from through one of the local brokers there, and then actually worked with the bank through this short sale. It was a property that was owned by a gentleman that was in California, and hadn't visited the property for over a year since he bought it. The property management company that was in place was fleecing pretty heavily. There was a lot of money going out the back door that wasn't really necessary. We bought that property for $480,000. So what is that?
A little over
11,000 something,
yeah,
11,500 a door. Yeah.
10.9 a door. This property was probably, as far as the units are concerned, the inside of the units were not maybe quite as bad as the 30 unit. We didn't. What we have done with that one is, instead of putting more money in, we have just taken the cash flow and remodeled the units as we needed to. When we bought this one, it was about 97% occupied, but it was very similar to the 30 unit in Columbus. A lot of undesirable tenants. There were a lot of people that weren't paying, and we wound up, we let the property management company go that was working that was running the building at that point, and we brought in another property management company local to Cincinnati. We emptied out the building to, I believe, about 30% occupancy, something in that neighborhood, so that we could begin to bring in tenants that had payment capability and that were a little bit more desirable tenants. We had a lot of them in there that were dealing drugs and raising all kinds of cane. The building itself had a real poor reputation. So the play on this one was repositioning the tenant mix, changing management, and then beginning to fill the building up. And we were talking this afternoon that this building is about 75% occupied from 30%. We have 75% economic as well as 75% physical occupancy. So this property is on its way as well. And like I said, we haven't put any money into it other than the $480,000 with the purchase, because we've done everything through the cash flow. So both of these buildings are poised for some pretty decent, throwing off some pretty decent cash flow here just very soon.
What do you figure the 44 unit value will be per door stabilized?
Well, it should be the $20,000 plus too.
Okay. So you've got two properties. If I can summarize, tell me if this is if I'm missing anything here. But you get two properties sounding very similar condition, poorly managed, bad tenant mix, and opportunity is change the management company, do some cosmetic improvements on, sound like primarily on the interior. Like I said, change the tenant mix, change the management company, do some improvements, and lease back up and have control over your residents. Is that it in a nutshell?
That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay, now, question I have is, on the 30 unit, on that rehab, did you pay for that out of pocket, or is that something you're paying out of cash flow as well?
We paid, we had about $250,000 purchase price, and I believe we put in about $30,000 extra money. The balance has come out of cash flow.
Okay, all right. So it's kind of a bootstrap. You got it. You bought it right, and you're bootstrapping your way through improvement.
Yes, exactly. What we were trying to do, our philosophy behind these was to get them purchased and then get them turned on to their own power as soon as possible, and let them fix themselves as far as the dollars, the cash flow that we in the 44 just a year, because I believe we closed it on April 30th, didn't we?
April 29th. Yep,
April 29th of last year. So with what we learned out of the 30 unit, we were able to put it into effect for the 44 and basically cut our turnaround time down by 50%.
All right, excellent, guys. And so you said the 44 units running around 75% occupancy right now?
Yes.
Yep, and the 30 unit is around 85% physical
85%.
and 85% economic. Yep.
Congratulations. I mean, to be able to get,
thank you.
I mean, to get to hear that your physical and economic is the same is that speaks really well of what you guys are doing and what Derek's doing as well. That's outstanding. That's outstanding. All right, let's go back over here. And so the current, we talk about the current state that where you're operating now. You're at 80%, 85%, and 75% respectively. Let's now let's drill down with some of the challenges. I mean, obviously you had to empty out some of the bad actors, quite a few bad actors, and maybe some of the bad actors were in the office as well. I don't know, but tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges and how you address them.
Oh man, where do we start? With the 30 units, the 30 unit property is actually in a better neighborhood as compared to the 44 unit. The 30 unit we would classify as a C property, but the 44 is more of a C minus. And the neighborhood is slowly changing as well. And it's a different thing that because we are finally turning around a 44 unit property, we are actually contributing a lot to revitalizing the whole neighborhood as well. But coming back to the 30 units, as I said, it's in a better neighborhood compared to the 44. And in terms of repositioning the property and emptying out the tenants which were undesirable, it was quite a process because, as I mentioned, the property management company wasn't really much conversant, and it wasn't just a question of not being conversant with the commercial real estate. They were not aggressive at all, and they had a whole management chain. This was a small property management company, but they had absolutely, the left hand had no idea what the right hand was doing. So basically, they were just spinning cycles. It was quite a challenge. And what we learned out of the experience was, number one, choosing a property management company, especially when you're out of town and you're not local to the property, it's just extremely, extremely paramount. That's number one priority. And number two is when you wait too long to fire a bad performer, that doesn't help your your business. So in this case, what we learned is we waited for way too long to fire a bad performing property management company. So we learned, as Dale mentioned, we learned so much out of this experience that we can pretty much write a book on how to choose a property management company, and that's the experience that we used to really turn around the 44 unit much faster. And the property management that we now have in place for the 44 unit is such a great property manager that we cannot stop raving and praise him, because he really treats the property like his own. So all the experience that we learned from the 30 unit, our first deal, we really used those lessons learned to turn on a 44 unit much faster, and also choose a much better property management company than what we had to begin with the 30 unit. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, Lance, but there were so many other things that happened along the way. Jog my memory, Dale, anything that stands out in terms of, I guess, managing the whole project in terms of doing the rehab. I mean, that was another experience in itself. Would you like to kind of give a brief description of that, because that was another learning experience?
Yeah, I think that was probably the second big challenge for a project when you're not when you're remote, and that is operating a rehab, whether it's a small rehab project, which I didn't really consider this 30 unit a real large project, but when you get ready to rehab a unit, all of a sudden you realize that you don't have contractors, painters, cleaners, whatever you need, carpenters to do that project. And then it became real evident in the very beginning that to try to control the cost and the schedule remotely without somebody really keeping an eye on it is very difficult. And so that's when we brought Derek, my son, in, and he grabbed a hold of the rehab, and things began to straighten out real quickly, because he was able to, he spent about 30 days on site actually at the very beginning getting things started, and once he got things started, then he handled the rest of it from Chicago, where he lives. But the fact that the lesson learned in this one is, once you get a property purchased and you choose your property management company, then you really need somebody to manage that property management company so that the expenses stay in line and the schedule is adhered to. The rehab is done based on the at the quality level that you want it to be done, and so that asset manager can play a very, very significant role in getting this property up and running. One thing that was real interesting management-wise about this 30 unit is, you know, Lance, we've talked that hiring a property management company for a 30 unit building probably doesn't work too well budget-wise, because it's too expensive. And so what Anil and I did is we got together and we actually found 3 other people in town that had, in Columbus, that had exactly the same problem that we had. They lived elsewhere. They had small properties from 12 to 24 units. They couldn't afford to hire a property manager, but they needed one. So we all got together and we formed a very informal co-op. We hired the same property manager. We were able to negotiate our cost a little bit, because we promised this lady over 100 units. she can afford to run the 3 small units. We can afford to have a very good property manager, which is the one that's actually brought this thing up to 85% occupied. She knows, she understands marketing, she understands how to run properties, and so now this little co-op, unofficial, informal co-op that we have put together has really allowed us to move forward with the property management situation. So the property management under control, the asset management under control. Now we're on our way to really bringing this thing to a stabilized position so that we can have a real good cash flowing property.
Excellent, excellent. Now I got a question. Wait a minute. Can't you just throw the keys to a property management company and wait for the checks to show up every month?
I can answer that. No. Well, let me re-answer.
Hell no.
Yeah. Yes, you can. But if you do that, I guarantee in 6 months you'll be talking to the bank about not being able to make your payment because.
Yeah, you'll be one of the motivated sellers, and then you'll have one of the. You'll be actually a motivated seller, and there'll be someone else coming in to buy your property, either from the bank, as Deb was saying, or as a short sale.
Yeah.
So this role is asset management. This is kind of important.
Kind of important, yes.
All right. So let me ask you this. So success equals skill set plus mindset. Through this process, what % of it was skill set? What % of it was mindset?
I'd say 90% was skill set, and the other 90% was mindset.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Tell me about the mindset side. What did you have to deal with? What were the challenges? What was going on, in your head?
Man, with a 30-unit deal, oh man.
Seems to me like every time the phone rang, we had a problem. Yeah.
Yep. Our head was spinning. I said, what did we get ourselves into? Okay, we got the first olive out of the jar, but what did we get ourselves into, especially with the property management company being so unresponsive, so totally out of touch, and the left hand not knowing what the right hand was doing. It was really a challenge, and we didn't tell. After that, we actually cycled through 3 more property management companies until we got this one that Dale just mentioned. So it took us a while to really learn our lessons, but we did it. We finally did it.
All right, outstanding. All right, now, so you're on the road to stabilization, and one of them sounds like it's 85% or something. It's probably getting pretty stabilized. What are your exit strategies? Do you want to hang on to it?
Actually, we were talking about that today, and for right now, maybe what we're planning on doing is getting the 44 unit in Columbus or in Cincinnati up to about 3 to 4 months of 85 to 90% occupancy, and then we'll probably put that one on the market. Yep. The one in Columbus, we leveraged, both Anil and I leveraged 401k money to purchase that one. So that one is free and clear, and it also is cash flow. It will be cash flowing very, very well here probably in another 30 days. So our thought about this property is we've been looking at some other a lot larger properties in the Cincinnati area, and we have an equity fund that we've been dealing with that is willing to allow us to leverage that one property in Columbus to buy another property. So instead of us bringing cash to the table, they'll allow us to bring our property to the table. And I know there's a little bit of risk there, but if you're not concerned so much about the leverage, we can catapult ourselves up to a very large property using the functionality of our Columbus property, but still keeping the cash flow. So we're kind of investigating that for the Columbus property.
So they would allow that to be your equity, the other property?
Yep. So we are
Yes.
really looking at cross-collateralizing. So that will be the collateral as an equity. Yes. So that's what we are trying to do.
Beautiful. Now, which one would that apply to, the 30 or the 44 or both?
The 30,
The
because
30
the 44 has actually, excuse me, for the 44 we took out a loan from Wells Fargo, so we got a 75% LTV loan. So that one already has the first lien through Wells Fargo. So that one we are looking to sell and make some money. And for the 30, we are looking to keep it. Not only for cash flow, but as Dale mentioned, for cross-collateralization so that we can move into a much bigger deal.
I think that's your best play. I think that's brilliant. I think that'd be a great play for it. That's really cool. That's really cool.
we were really excited when we were talking to that equity fund. We just happened to ask them out of the clear blue. You know, that's one thing that we've learned through all this process. You don't get anything unless you ask for it. And so during the conversation, we just said, hey, he said, how much cash do you have to put down on this property? And we said, hey, we've got a free and clear property in Columbus. It's worth about $700,000. How about we put that down? And he said, that'd be great. So all of a sudden, we just brought $700,000 to the table.
So let's look at these numbers. You've got, okay, on the 30 unit, you're in it for 10 a door. What's that, about $300,000?
Mm-hmm.
And you believe your maybe 700. That puts it more like 23 a door.
And that could very well be, because one of the things that's really nice about this property there in Columbus is the expenses are extremely low. And one of the reasons is utilities. Utilities are something that asset management-wise you've really got to pay attention to be sure that the water bill's within reason and the electric is within reason. So the utilities are low. The operating expenses are very low there because the tenants pay everything as far as utilities are concerned.
So, yes. Yeah, the water can eat your lunch if you don't keep an eye on it.
It certainly can.
Oh, yes. And that happened to our 44 units. Maybe that's, you want to share the story quickly, Dale? That's another great story about the asset management for the 44 units.
Well, one thing really crazy about Cincinnati is the water bill only comes to you once a quarter. And so what can happen if you're not careful, you don't know you have a problem for 90 days. And then it takes a while for you to figure out what it is to resolve it, and then you're 180 days down the road. Mm-hmm. So what we did is we convinced our asset manager convinced the water company to make payments, estimated payments every 30 days on the water, and then we took it upon ourselves to begin to read the water meter weekly. And as we read the water meters weekly, we could spot troubled areas very quickly. And then as soon as we knew that there was a standard, these are all one-bedroom units, and the water bill should be about $30 a unit per month. And when it calculated more than that, then that was a red flag that said we've got a big problem. So we started, the asset manager got with the property manager, and they began to cycle through each one of the units, checking bathtubs, showers, lavatories in the bathroom, and sinks, being sure that the aerators were in place, the flappers in the toilets were working right, and stop all of that, all of those issues. And so it didn't take us really very long to find all those issues and get them taken care of. And then what we're doing now is we're replacing all the shower heads with low-flow shower heads, and we're just going to start a program that we're just going to go to Home Depot and buy 44 flappers and just replace them all on the stools, no question asked. And that cut our water bill tremendously, and that money goes directly to the bottom line.
That's right.
And so that's something. Those are the kind of things that the asset manager watches all the time, and which allows Anil and I to go find other properties and more financing.
So, all right, excellent. So you guys basically looking to double your money, in the form of equity on the 30 unit, but that you're going to then leverage into a bigger property, which will be, more cash flow,
right?
More equity creation when you do improve that bigger property.
Yep.
And the 44 unit, you're looking to pull your cash out, your equity out as cash by just flipping the property, selling it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which you could then, if you chose to, 1031 that into a bigger property.
Yeah.
All right.
Excellent. We should be really close to doubling our money on the 44 unit too. I mean,
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not quite, but almost.
Yeah, pretty close.
So that's not and so if we can bring it up in the next 30 days, put it on the market and sell it within a buy and a sell within an 18-month period, that's not a bad return.
Well, here's an idea. Put it on the market tomorrow. And probably. What do you mean probably?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Mr. Edwards. That was an excellent idea.
That's a good idea.
I mean, why not? Why not?
Well, shoot, yes, if we're getting ready to sell, because it's going to take a little while to turn it, and probably, and then that will allow us to go ahead and bring it up to speed by the time we get a hit on it. And then, of course, you always buy actual sell pro forma, so sure, why not?
Yeah, get it out there. Get it out there. All right, so I got one final question for you guys. You have people on this call, people going to be listening in the future. What is the single most important thing you learned in this process? I want to ask you each individually. What's the single one most important thing you learned in this process? I'll let you guys decide who goes first.
Okay, I'll jump in. When you have a problem, develop the mindset that when you have a problem, it's just a temporary condition. Look at the problem, figure out what you need to do, solve it, and move on, and not dwell on it. Just resolve it, move on, and that's where the mindset comes in, where you have the you can depend on yourself and the confidence in yourself. That's what I was trying to look for, the confidence in yourself to either to resolve any issue that you might run into, because you've got a boatload of resources everywhere. So just address each issue as it comes up and move on.
Beautiful, beautiful. Anil?
That was great, Dale. For me, it's not one, but I would say three. It's the persistence, it's the mindset, and it's the systems. Because all three are so equally important. Had we not put in the systems, where initially both Dale and I were jumping into each and every deal and dealing with tents and toilets, and then we brought in Derek as an asset manager, and we kind of streamlined our business so that we could focus on acquisitions and Derek could focus on operations. So that was really kind of streamlining our business. So that was putting in systems. So I would say all the three are pretty much equally important. Mindset is extremely important, of course, but systems and persistence are equally important as well. So that's just my summary.
Excellent, excellent. I think those are extremely valuable lessons. And the one part that I really love, Dale, you just said it, is you had the confidence that whatever problem comes up, we'll figure it out. That entrepreneurial mindset right there in an essence. That's it. We'll figure it out. So I love this. All right, guys, great job. Thank you for sharing. Now,
you're welcome, Lance.
Are you open for some questions?
Absolutely.
All right.
Sure.
Okay, if you have a question, here's what I want you to do. Either send a question in to the chat or raise your hand. We have some questions that came in while you were speaking. So everyone just either raise your hand and I'll bring on a line or send one on the control panel. Let's see, we've got questions that came in. Here's one from David. Where did the money come from to buy these two properties? And I know one of you spoke about you leverage 401k for one of them.
We kind of leverage 401k and the debt equity, and I use some of the debt equity in my house by refinancing my mortgage and cashing out. So it's a combination of 401k and the cash out of my current home mortgage.
Okay, so it's leverage. It was leverage in all cases.
Yep, pretty much leveraging. We did not really technically use any of our own cash.
Oh, you didn't? I mean, no, you did not. You all leverage. Perfect. Here's a question from Luz. How long was the process to fill the property? I guess there was, maybe you talk about the 30 and the 44, because it sounds like you learned from the 30.
Yeah, the 30 unit almost took close to 2 years, so that was a pretty long process. The 44 unit, we are very close to 75%, so that took less than a year, almost a year.
And that includes the time to empty it out as well, correct?
Pretty much, yes.
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 Yeah. Yeah, because we closed on it April the 29th, and we're hitting 75% economic today, just a few days past a year. So that includes coming in, evaluating the situation, firing the property manager, hiring a new one, emptying out the building, and repositioning the building, everything a year, a little over a year.
All right, excellent, excellent. All right, let's see. We've got another question here from Dave, different Dave, Dave Smythe. The 30 and 44 unit apartments, were they C's or D's? And it sounds like they were, the 30 was a C and the D was a C minus. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
How are the areas? Well, how do you classify the area?
Well, the 30 unit, again, it's a C area. Go ahead, Dale. And the 44 unit is a C minus area as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say both buildings were C's, but the area in Cincinnati is probably a C minus area.
Yeah.
And then the one in Columbus is I'd say a solid C area.
Okay. All right. We have, I think it's a hand raised. Okay, Jolene has her hand raised. Let's open the line for Jolene. All right, Jolene, you're live.
I am so excited to hear about your properties, finally, to hear all the gory details. So thank you for bringing that.
Hey, Jolene, it's so nice to hear your voice. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
My question, a couple questions. One is, how long did it take you to decide to replace your property manager on the first one?
Too long.
Too long, way too long. We kept on discussing it, and we kind of were so caught up in the whole mix. I guess it was our first rodeo that we just took too long. So it took us 6 months to finally fire the property management company.
Let me kind of add a few comments to that too, and maybe give you some reasons why it took us so long. Anil mentioned a while ago about systems, and it took us a little bit to get a system in place so that in case we so much pain and heartache, and not that we wanted to let another one go. I believe that was a contributing factor to hanging on to the property management company too long. And to kind of explain that a little bit more, when you change property management companies, you've got utilities that need to be sent a different place. The tenant has to pay their rent at a different place. Any kind of business that you've been doing through that property manager or at the business, all of those addresses have to be changed. If you've got Section 8 people, you've got to deal with the Section 8 company or Section 8 housing authority to get those checks rerouted. And I believe that one of the reasons, and this is a very poor excuse, but one of the reasons it took us so long is that we knew it was going to take a long time to get all of those things changed, and we just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and trying to talk ourselves out of the fact that, well, maybe these guys need another 30 days. Maybe they need another 30 days. So what we did finally is we went to the UPS store and we got a UPS box. And now all of the Section 8 checks goes to that UPS box. All the tenants' rent checks go to the UPS box. All of our bills that are generated go to that UPS box. So if we need to change property managers again, the tenants are not involved. The utility office is not involved. The Section 8 housing is not involved. None of the subsidies are involved. All we need to do is post a letter that says, don't call this property manager, call this one. And so I think that's part of streamlining the system so that in case you have to make changes, it's very, very simple to do so. So now what we're doing is we're setting up all of our other properties exactly the same way. So if we need to make a change, it's very possible that the property management company may quit us. And actually that's exactly what happened, because we were tightening up the reins so tight on one of the property management companies is they gave us a 30-day notice and said, we're not playing your game anymore because we're not making any money.
Dale, you are bang on. There was one thing which I also want to add is we also put in Google. We actually leverage Google Voice, and what that does is that's free. So using the Google Voice, the tenants actually call the Google Voice number, and you can configure Google Voice to just redirect to whatever number you want. So even if you change your property management companies, the tenants will still keep calling the same number, and under the covers, you can just change it to redirect to your new property manager's cell phone. So that's another system that we put in place. So we made it very, very transparent. Even if you change property management companies, the tenants are going to be not affected. So that's how we streamline our systems.
I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you guys saying that. And maybe, Lance, one day, I bet there's more to your experience about the property management shift that you could share with us. Maybe one day we could have a longer period just to exploit that, because, of course, once you get the property, I mean, that's, you know, that's such a gigantic piece. And I was asking because I expect all of us, well, I expect many of us, including me, would try to make something that wasn't working continue working, simply because we don't really, to your point, have an idea of all the components that go along with making that change.
Well, I think, I'm sorry, Jolene.
No, go ahead, Dale.
Well, I would say probably one of the things that we didn't do either with our property management company is actually set expectations. Yeah. I think we probably went in, Anil and I probably went in assuming the property management company knew exactly how we wanted to run the building, and they went into the deal assuming they were going to run it the way they wanted to, and we didn't have anything to say about it. And I believe that that kind of contributed to our first calamity. And so once you interview, I feel you should interview a multitude of property management or several property management companies to get an idea of who you would like to work with, not only personality-wise, but be sure they're qualified, how much experience they have, can they handle C properties, or have they only handled A? Do they like the area? And then sit down and actually outline expectations of exactly what you want to have done. And when you do that, then I believe that makes the transition for your property manager a lot easier. And then because you have the expectations laid out very clearly, everybody knows when they're not being followed. And so that's probably one of the mistakes that we made too in the beginning.
And definitely get some referrals, because that's one of the things which we did not get, because this first property management company was referred to us by our commercial real estate broker. So we kind of assumed that this property management company was good. So definitely do get some referrals. That was another lesson that we learned, and we applied to our other deal in Cincinnati.
Did you have to change the property management team on the Cincinnati property?
Yeah, that was the deed in lieu of, deed in lieu of foreclosure. When we bought it from the bank, the property manager that was in place, he was actually based out of Dayton, and he was coming down to Cincinnati only once or twice a month. So that was the only guy we fired. And then we chose our property manager, so we didn't have to change any more property manager after that.
And on the first property, and I guess my question is, I mean, you must have had some inkling. Well, obviously you had an inkling or a sense of things not being the way that you wanted them. What were some of those key points that you kind of made you start? What was the beginning of you realizing that there needed to be a change?
Well, I think that there was two big red flags. Number one, they weren't getting the units rented.
Yep.
Their marketing technique was just pretty narrow. They had a few flyers that they passed out, but whatever it was they were doing wasn't working. The second thing was the expenses were just ridiculous. They would come out to a tenant would call and say, I have a leaky faucet. So they would send one of their assistants out. He'd look at the faucet and he'd say, yep, it's leaking, okay, we better call a plumber, and they'd charge us $50 for the trip. And they were charging us ridiculous fees for maintenance. Probably maintenance of your property is another big place that you have to watch to be sure that those maintenance expenses were right. So the two things I see, number one, they weren't getting the units rented, and number two, the maintenance expenses were just ridiculous.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Great information. I bet you could do a whole long time on all that.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why it's great to hear it.
Well, with all the, of course, we didn't make any mistakes, just like Lance says. You know, we didn't make any mistakes, but we had some considerably expensive learning experiences.
Yeah.
But we put those, I guess I'd like to brag on ourselves a little bit. We paid attention to what we were doing, and we fixed it in the next one. And so now we've still, of course, every property you get is going to be different, and you're going to have a learning experience no matter where you go. But we were able to cut our time on more units in half on the second property. So I believe we're on our way to having some to learning a little bit more, having some systems in place, like Anil was saying, to make the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth property run smoother. Still, you're going to have hiccups and hurdles, but you know, it's just a temporary situation. So you do, like I was saying earlier, just fix it and move on.
Now I've got a comment. Thank you, Jolene, for the question. I've got a comment. I'm seeing the question came in from Gunnar here in a moment. I'll get right to it real quick. One thing I want to share with you guys is with property managers, my experience is when you find a good one, and they'll start off in a flurry and they're doing really well, but if left unattended, they will drift, no matter how good they are. And so it sounds like with Derek and your asset manager, you know, he has to keep keep their feet to the fire constantly.
He does. He does.
Absolutely.
He does. He's in constant contact with the property managers.
Yeah, he talks to them twice daily, pretty much, as Dale mentioned. He is very, very very in close contacts. He keeps a thumb on the property. He keeps a thumb on the expenses. He watches the expenses like a hawk. He's looking at how the units are getting leased up, pretty much the whole deal. Really doing a great job in terms of managing the property manager and the assets.
Excellent, excellent. All right, here's our last question. This came in from Gunnar. It says, are you going to continue buying C properties or start looking for Bs?
Both.
Yeah,
we are definitely looking for C's and B's as well.
Yeah, I think Anil's right. I think we'll continue to look for the C's, but we're going to blend in some B's too, if we can get them worth the price, worthwhile, and as long as they make sense. Yeah, C's and B's are great.
Yeah, I mean the one thing I'll say right now on C's is C's are being sold by the pound. Meaning, I mean, you guys got in at what was the 30 unit was $8,000 a door, and what was the 44 again? How much did you get in on the 10?
Just a skosh under 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's right, just 11 doors. So you can get in, when you get in for those kind of prices, when you run your numbers, your break-even occupancy, it's going to be, 50%, 60%, and so that's a huge opportunity going on in C's right now. A lot of C's are in distress, and so it's just it's a different game than B's. The B's, there's more of a premium on B's right now because of they've continued operating. All right, guys. Listen. Super job. Congratulations, and looking forward to hearing about how you've parlayed these into your next big deal. But just congratulations, and thank you both. Thank you, Anil. Thank you, Dale, for sharing with everybody this evening.
Oh, you're welcome, Lance. Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.